Welcome to Journey Home to Self. This is a place for us to explore the milestones, the roadblocks, the pit stops, and the breathtaking sights on the most important journey of our lives. The journey of coming back home to you. My hope is that through the stories, insights, knowledge, and wisdom we share here, you get inspired and activated to widely fall in love with choosing yourself every single moment. I'm your host, Deepshikha Sairam, and I am truly so excited and honored that you are here. Let's dive in and journey home to self together. Hello friends, welcome back to another episode of Journey Home to Self. Today I have a very special guest for you. She's someone who I turned to when I was spiritually dehydrated, when I needed someone to show me the way home to myself. Her name is Marin Bach-Antonson. Marin is a Magdalene Rose Priestess, wisdom keeper of the Rose Codes, and a way shower. She has facilitated thousands of ceremonies, red tents, and rituals for women over the span of 20 years. She's a catalyst, a channel, and the creator of magic. She's deeply connected to all aspects of the divine feminine, but her holy trinity is to Isis, Mother Mary, and beloved Mary Magdalene. Marin not only helped me remember the soul memory of being a priestess myself, she also helped me guide me on my way back home. She helped me honor my light as well as my shadows. She taught me on how to shed the mask that I had been carrying that was keeping me from meeting my higher self. But today I wanted to invite her to talk about one of the tools she taught me that has been crucial on my journey home. She calls it the art of allowing. I call it sitting in your muck. What are we allowing here? Your feelings, my friends. Culturally, we have been taught not to feel our feelings. We're always trying to escape from it, avoid it, or repress it. We've been taught to not cry, not feel anger, not feel grief, and sometimes not even be too happy about your achievements or celebrate your wins. In short, we are a society that has been totally cut off from our emotions. And Marin taught me that feeling our emotions is almost a fast-track way to pierce through some of those very painful memories so that we can be on a fast track to journey home to self. My experience when I started to allow myself to feel was that whenever I surrendered and allowed myself to either be angry or feel the sadness, the resentment, the fear, the feelings passed quickly. It has also now been proven that when we don't feel, when we suppress our emotions, it causes an energetic block in our body. Emotions get stuck because emotions are ultimately energies that need to be processed, that need to be moved through your body. But when emotions get stuck, it causes your body to go out of balance. And when your body is out of balance, it causes dis-ease. Now, I'm not just talking about depression or sadness or melancholy or feeling too much anger. I'm also talking about actual diseases. In fact, a lot of autoimmune disorders, even cancers, have been associated with emotional trauma that has not been processed. Majorly, there are about 3 ways that we handle our feelings. We either suppress or repress them. We also express them in a way that's not healthy, or we escape from them. Now, suppression and repression are the most common ways in which we push our feelings down and put them aside. In repression, it happens unconsciously, but in suppression, we do it consciously. We don't want to be bothered by our feelings because we don't know what to do with them. You know that thing that happens? It starts at around the age of 7 when we've been told that it's not okay to cry anymore. We want to cry We're feeling angry. We're feeling maybe fear. We want to express our emotions through a cry or through a scream, but we bite down on it. We gulp it down and it causes like this burning feeling in your throat. I know what I'm talking about. You want to cry, but you can't, and your throat starts to burn. That is what is suppression. When you repress a feeling, it is because there's so much guilt and fear over the feeling that it is not even felt consciously. As soon as you feel it, there's so much energy behind that emotion that it immediately gets thrust into your unconscious. Sometimes you might not even remember the incident that happened because you have your body, your mind has repressed the feeling in order to keep you safe in the moment. But in suppression, we do it consciously. The pressure of suppressed feeling is that it can be felt later, actually, not can, it is felt later as irritability, mood disorder, tension in the muscles, in the neck and in the back, headaches, cramps, colitis, insomnia, allergies, so many symptoms. Now, expression is another form when not done healthy where we do not allow ourselves to feel our feelings. This is when we dump our negative feelings, when we project onto others. We dump it on them and they experience it as an attack, and they in turn are forced to either suppress it or attack again or escape the feelings or express it on someone else, and the cycle continues. And the last one, which almost all of us do, is an escape. An escape is the avoidance of feelings through diversion. Social media scrolling, Netflix binges, alcohol, shopping addictions, even some of the new age practices like meditation, journaling, rituals, reading way too many personal development books without acting on them. Working out, those can also be ways through which you escape through your feelings. Definitely happened with me when I had the realization that one of the ways that I escaped my feelings was through cleaning and social media scrolling. And I realized that I would not even remember the moment when I picked the rag and the spray to start cleaning. But it's because I'm escaping. I'm not allowing myself to feel there's something going on, but I'm not allowing myself to feel it. Or I would just mindlessly scroll on Instagram for close to 2 hours just because it helped me numb out. We all do it. It's okay. However, there's another way. And that's what Marin is going to talk about today. She's going to talk about how to practice the art of allowing. First, she's going to explain what is it, why do we need it. She's also going to answer a very regularly asked question that I always get. And I thought that while I have her on the podcast, she would be the best person to answer that. And that question is, what is the divine feminine? And how can we all start to use it? So get ready. This episode is really juicy. It has a lot of wisdom in it. And I am so excited to introduce you to this beautiful, wonderful goddess who is my beloved, beloved sister. Let's welcome her. Hello, sister. Welcome to Journey Home to Self. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I mean, I have shared on this episode and then on some of the previous episodes too about how important it has been in my journey to have you as a mentor, to have you as a guide. I don't think I would have been here if I didn't have, your support, your guidance, and just you holding space for me. And you, for me, embody the divine feminine. You, for me, embody the, that goddess energy. And if I haven't ever said it before, I just want to say thank you for doing all that you did for me, because I don't think I would have been able to make it, make through the portals, the dark portals without you.
We all need that, those people in our life that come to us at those cross points, just to mirror us, to let us know that we're okay, to hold the space. The old model of like there's a teacher and a student, or a guru and a follower, like that's an old model. All we need is to connect our hearts and just hold space for one another, so that the rose inside of us can just bloom and reveal itself. And so, my love, it's been such a privilege to walk with you, really, and to be seen and to be mirrored and to be celebrated by you is such a great gift and such a privilege. Thank you.
My pleasure. I would love for you to share with the listeners your journey. What made you choose this path? I know that all our journeys look very similar. We are plugged in into the 3D matrix, and we're doing something, and then something happens in our life which makes us look another way. I would love for you to tell us what it was for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you say what made you choose this path, because I think that our true soul journeys, they choose us. And
Mm.
so I will tell you the story of how my path chose me.
Mhm.
I was 24 years old when I experienced my first real, intense, crushing tragedy in my life. I think up to a certain point, we're all very innocent and we're all very, whatever it is. And then something happens, and it's usually death. And, I used to not tell this part of the story, but I will tell it now, because there is a piece in it that is a really big wisdom piece. So the part of the story I used to not tell is that my brother, my younger brother, he was 21 at the time, he actually committed suicide. His girlfriend broke up with him. He was absolutely devastated, couldn't handle that level of pain, and ended up taking his life. It was a shock, as you can imagine, to our family. I'm the oldest of 6 children. We've been a very happy, normal, healthy family up to that point. And the reason I tell that piece of the story now is because I found myself at a crossroad. And the crossroad was where I was broken, but I also remained open. And at that exact 0 point between broken and open is where Divine Mother, or the divine, can often reach us. And she reached me.
Mm.
And I began to feel very guided, almost like a wind at my back. I let go of the life that I was living at the time, which was I was pursuing acting and dance and was like on track to like really go down into that industry. And I just decided that I didn't want to be the good girl anymore that followed that given path. And I was going to just take some risks and start just to live by this force that was guiding me. And it led me to different spiritual ashrams. It led me to new teachers. It led me to yoga. It led me to a whole bunch of things. And I found myself on this one particular night. This is the night that my path absolutely chose me. At the New York Open Center, I was volunteering because I was in my 20s, I had no money. And we got a gift of a workshop as a thank you for our service that particular night. And I had the choice between a feng shui workshop and an autumn equinox ceremony. And I was literally holding both in like the balance scales in both hands, going, oh, I want to do both. Which one? Which one? And by the grace of just the angels, I chose the autumn equinox ceremony. And I remember having the thought, well, I like autumn in New York City, where I lived at the time. I didn't even know what an equinox was. I didn't even know
Right.
what a ceremony was, but I just decided to go. And my subway was late. I walked into that particular room on that night. And when I hit the door frame, what I saw, I had an incredible visceral reaction.
Mm.
I walked into this room and I stopped in my tracks. I saw women sitting in a circle. I saw a center altar. I saw candles all around the room, as if the room had been transformed into like an ancient temple. And my body, my being, in my blood, in my breath, it was as if I was remembering this thing, this frequency, this energy that was sisterhood, sacredness, circle, ceremony. And I knew it without realizing that I knew it. Something in me from many past lifetimes knew this deep in my bones, but it was the first time in this lifetime that I was experiencing it again. And I sat down in the circle, practically buzzing, like I could barely breathe. I didn't even know what was going on. I was having a literal, visceral physical reaction. The evening was amazing. I went right up to the woman that facilitated, this beautiful priestess, afterwards. I practically grabbed her by the shoulders and I said, I have to do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of came out of my mouth. I just knew. It wasn't from my head that I knew, it was from my heart, from my soul that I knew. And luckily, I think we were probably destined to re-meet in this lifetime. And Susan was her name. She took me under her wing and I got to be her apprentice and learned the mysteries of the divine feminine, learned the cycles of the earth and the lunar cycles and all of the many things that started me on my priestess path. Looking back, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then this story will be complete. I remember from what I know now, when I contextualize that moment in that door frame, I know now that my priestess codes got activated in that very moment. And I do believe that many of us, we are carrying codes that are dormant until we're at a particular frequency at an event or in a person's field that ultimately opens and activates them. And my memories of the ancient priestess mystery schools and my lifetimes as a priestess began to come online after that night. And all it took was me getting around sisterhood, getting around Susan. And it wasn't that she was teaching me, it was that I was remembering in her presence. Oh, I get chills when I speak that. And I think that's ultimately the gift that we can give to each other. And maybe that's exactly what was between you and I. There was a certain level of remembering that I was able to hold space for in my vibration that helped to open and activate some of your codes as well.
I 100% agree. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you before, but before we started our work together, I think a full year before, I had gone to a women's circle with, two people who are common friends with both of us, Jess and Jamie, here in New Jersey. And Jess was a client at that time, and she used to do these women's circles. And, I knew that she did it, and she lived pretty close to me, but I'd never been. But I don't know what was it about that day. It was a December night. It was a chilly December night that I went with a friend. And I had the same visceral experience. I couldn't stop my tears. And it was, I don't even think that I spoke maybe more than 5 words at the circle, because I was just so awe inspired of the fact that how is it that this is the first circle that I am at in this lifetime, but I know exactly what it feels like.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was such a remembrance, and of course there's been many moments since then, but I totally know what that means. Talk to me a little bit more about the codes being dormant and coming online.
So, from my understanding, we all carry particular archetypal energies within us. So, myself personally, I carry the priestess archetypal energy, I carry the Magdalene archetypal energy, I carry the archetypal energy of the Rose lineage, and recently have also realized I carry the archetypal energy of the mystic, right? There is a process that people can go through in discovering their own archetypal energies. And it's really just a very intuitive thing. You just sort of lean in. You just sort of are drawn to particular words and particular, frequencies. Some people may identify as a healer or a light worker, a teacher, a leader, a visionary, whatever it might be. And these archetypal energies have embedded within them certain codes that overlay our own personal codes for our mission. So understanding your archetype is one of the best ways to begin to tune in, tap in, and turn on your codes. That's the first part. The second part is the way that they naturally come online. It's as if they are embedded wisdom, knowledge, and information within you that you carry. And when they are opened, this wisdom, knowledge, and information begins to be known to you. It's as if you have a library within you that you carry that you don't even know that you carry, potentially from past lifetimes, from other galactic experiences, from an aspect of your soul or your cosmic consciousness. And they're meant to be here in this dimension at this time because you knew that this piece of you turning on these codes again was going to help the evolution of all of humanity, to help humanity return and bring us into the golden age, into the new earth consciousness, into the fifth dimension, whatever you want to call it. And so to turn on these codes, it's really a frequential experience. We must be around an energy that is resonant with the particular code in order for the code to pop open, to come online for you. And that's how that ultimately works.
Beautiful, beautiful. Would you agree that also in order for the codes to open, it's almost like you have to go through a portal, right? And in that portal, there are these traumas that our bodies hold, some memories. And in my experience, until I started to shed those, the more I shed those, I don't think until I started, but the more I shed those, the more open I became to that new level of consciousness. Do you think that has been your experience as well?
100%. I'll say it sort of in a very succinct way, which is there is an art and a science between having to empty, 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 so that we can be filled, filled, filled with the God force.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And so allowing ourselves to go into the initiations that I will call the death portals. So many of us avoid these because we live in such an incredibly masculine culture, and we've been so conditioned to have to succeed, expand, be in action, keep growing, keep proving ourselves, be more, make more, get more. And it's as if we even stop for a moment to rest, many of us feel guilty. We feel ashamed. We feel lazy. We feel like, there's a hypervigilance that is so programmed inside of us. And that's the hypervigilance of the patriarchy. So number one, part of reclaiming the divine feminine, first and foremost, is understanding that the rhythm and cycle of life is life, death, rebirth, life, death, rebirth. And that another way of saying it, I used to be a doula for many years. I really know the wisdom of the womb because of those years and that experience. And the womb, she expands and contracts. And this cycle is embedded in everything in nature. It's embedded in our breath, the inhale and the exhale, the full moon, the new moon, the summer, spring, the fall, winter, right? There's an electromagnetic quality, an in and an out, an expansion and a contraction. And that is how evolution works, right? We only value the expansion. We don't value in our culture the contraction, the magnetism, the pulling back, and that's the feminine.
Yeah.
Right? So, point being, when you're really on an expansion path, there will absolutely be very deep contractions. There will be initiations. There will be death portals that we are asked to sit in for a while. And there's a science in that because it's a friction. There's an energetic back and forth between the expansion and the contraction, between the life and death that ultimately propels you to the next level of your becoming. So yes, the codes and the willingness to surrender to our pain, to what's coming up for us that is the shadow, to allow ourselves to go into these death portals is a natural intelligence that Once we're pulled back, think about like a rubber band, then we shoot forward even that much more.
Yeah.
And most people, they just resist going into those contractions and into those initiations as if something is wrong. And we do the worst thing that we can, again, not because we're bad and wrong, but because it's so indoctrinated in us, is that we try to fix it. And I don't mean fix it. It's like some people fix it with drugs, alcohol, snacking late at night. But even the spiritual community, we're trying to fix it with our yoga. We're trying to fix it with our juice fasts. We're trying to fix it with our medicine journeys. Anything to get me out of this pain. But what if your pain is actually part of the path? And that's the intelligence of the priestess and of the divine feminine.
Beautiful. I am actually going to come back to the expansion and contraction. But I want to ask you first, because I've not heard anyone describe it the way that you describe it. And this is a question that I get asked a lot on podcasts and interviews. What is the divine feminine?
At her highest expression. So the divine feminine is an aspect of the divine intelligence, of the divine force, right? There's a masculine aspect of it. There is a feminine aspect of it. In the highest expression, she is the vibration of acceptance and allowing. She is in complete and total openness, like a rose, completely unfolded and open, without judgment. And she is the presence of love that doesn't turn away from anything ever. She can be fierce in her love. She can be mighty in her love. She can be Kali Ma, ripping you apart with her love. But she is the presence of pure compassion, mercy, allowance, and acceptance. And when we truly, another way of saying it is like, and people might even be able to feel this even in this moment, our masculine energy is in the front of our body. It is where we're most often, day in and day out, positioned. It's where our consciousness is. It's the front of your body that's constantly tracking the field, that's constantly in action, that's constantly in do mode, to-do lists, all this stuff. If you were to just even shift slightly, energetically, maybe even subtly physically, to the back of your body, going to the back of your heart, you actually can begin to experience the divine feminine. She is spacious, silent, quiet, more still. She is magnetic. She pulls things to her rather than having to go out and get it. She is receptive. She is the chalice symbology, where the masculine is the sword symbology. So,
beautiful.
Yeah, that's, I could say a lot more about that, but I hope that's a good description.
I love that explanation. And you're right. You can feel it. You can feel it, the words that you were saying. And there is no masculine without the feminine. That's the true way. They're supposed to intertwine and work together. But in our world, we've forgotten that we are so much tethered to our masculine energy than our feminine energy. In fact, in a lot of cultures, even in today's world, the feminine energy is considered to be the weak energy. It's soft energy, but those who have experienced the feminine energy, it's fierce.
Yes. Well, and another way of saying that is like, the feminine is also like our vulnerability. And true vulnerability, the irony is so powerful. That the vulnerability is the openness. And in your openness and undefendedness, you have access to all of your divine power. Right? So, yeah, so the feminine, she is that, you can begin to connect with her even by beginning to value those states of rest as replenishment, not as something to feel guilty about, but as
Mm-hmm.
replenishment, as renewal, as rebirth, as resourcing oneself, so that you can go back out and be reborn anew again and again and again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so simple, right? Most of the times when I talk to friends, about some of these concepts, it these things are so simple. There is no 5-step process, 3-step method. There are these simple things, but yet so powerful. And that brings me to back to expansion and contraction. One of the things that I learned from you when I really embodied it, of course, whenever I'm in an initiation, my first reaction is resistance. I stay in that for maybe a couple of days, maybe shorter, and then of course I open up and I allow myself. The concept, I've talked about this many times before as well, the art of allowing. That is, I according to me, that is the true that is the tool to even enter the portal.
Yes, 100%. That's such a beautiful way of saying it. It's the foundation of living from the feminine paradigm.
Yeah.
So the process, I'm going to go back to allowing in just a moment, but the process that many of us are in is we are actually shaking the old patriarchal paradigm out of our cellular system.
Mm-hmm.
It's leaving our body. And it can be disorienting. It can be untethering. It can be uncomfortable. It can be dizzying. It can be exhausting. And we're thinking that something's wrong when really there's an entire paradigm and model of that energy that's hooked in us that is actually beginning to be detoxified from our body. So a mantra that is so incredibly powerful when you are in a place or a state of feeling like there's something wrong is this. You place your hands on your heart and you get yourself into a receptive state, come into the back of your body, breathe a little bit, and you just affirm for yourself, what if this is not a problem, but rather a process I am in?
Mm.
And then the resistance softens, and all of the magic and intelligence of what's actually happening can continue without you getting in the way of it.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing is the exact same gateway. We're taught to have to fight with ourselves, right? And most people are at war with themselves on any given day all the time. We want to be different. We want to be more. We want to be less of this, more abundant in that, etc. And whenever it is that we are not in the center of our heart, being present with what is and allowing everything to be as it is, then we are not at all connected to the divine intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are so afraid to allow things, but allowing opens up a portal where it connects you to the divine God force. You can either be plugged into earth mind or you can be plugged into divine mind. And allowing plugs you instantly into divine mind. So what would this sound like? If you're angry, I allow myself to be really freaking pissed off today. And you're going to see it actually moves through you so much faster, so
For
much
sure.
quicker
Mm-hmm.
than trying to, not feel that way or not be that way,
Yeah.
right? I allow myself to be in debt. Oof, most people are like, no way, Marin, I am not allowing that because they're so scared because they think if they allow it, it's going to stay that way. And the absolute irony is it's the exact opposite. It's a reversal code that we've been taught. Because if we allow, now we're in our divine power. So the patriarchal culture reverses it and makes us scared of allowing because then we're connected to our divine power. We can't be controlled, right?
Mm.
So when we lean back and we allow, I allow this debt to be what it is. I allow all my feelings around it. I allow my shame. I allow my frustration. I allow the disgust of myself. I allow the disgust of this system that has been the cause of my debt, any and all of your human feelings. We must allow ourselves to be fully human in order to be fully divine.
Mm-hmm.
So allowing puts you in that open receptive space that helps to move the very thing that you want to change. But you don't move it as a human by
Yeah.
trying to make more, do more, save your money. All that stuff is just third dimensional stuff. Rather, you lean back into the back of your body. And now you've got access to the fifth dimension. And now divine intelligence can guide you in how to move this and bring it into divine order. We don't have to change anything, but we can call things into their divine order.
Yeah. And this doesn't mean that you're not going to do anything. You're going to still, now you're working with the divine energy. Now you're
Exactly.
creating with the divine energy.
Now you're co-creating.
Yeah. I want to address this. I feel, I'm sure you'll agree, children are such great examples of the art of allowing. My son, the younger one, his name is Irwan. You've seen him many times on our Zoom calls together. When he was born, he would just not stop feeling. He had such big emotions. He still does. And I remember with my older one, I would ask him to stop crying, and he would sob, but he would. And I didn't know it at that time. That's what I had seen. That's what I had taught. So I would say, don't cry in the public, or, I would ask him to, suppress his emotions, shut them down, because I was uncomfortable with it.
Right.
Right. Or because the society was uncomfortable with it. But for some reason, that did not work with my younger one. And and a few times I did try. I did try to, get him to shut up, because it was just so uncomfortable. It was noise for me. And then slowly I realized that he just needed. And I remember I've spent hours of my life just sitting there with him as he cried his lungs out. And then finally, after maybe 2 or 3 hours, sometimes he would cry for hours, he would stop and he would be like, you want to play ball, mama?
Right.
He would just move out of it.
Right.
And when I learned the art of allowing, I, would witness my son do that. And he became my teacher in that. And I had to then teach this to my older one. So now he's learning to feel his emotions. And now he's almost he's a preteen. So it's even more difficult now, because there's so much of this stigma around feeling or, crying for boys. But now he's relearning. When do we stop that? Why do we stop that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love that our children can be our teachers. It's such a beautiful story. And your ability to simply be present with, that's the Divine Mother right there, holding space with an open heart, being present without judgment, being present in love, right? So it's absolutely true that, so there's a code in the word emotion. Emotion. Emotions ultimately are energy in motion, right? And what happens is when we miscreate, sometimes there is an energy reaction in our body that kind of tells us that we've just created something that maybe doesn't feel good, right? And so the emotion is meant to come in like a wave, to be felt fully and completely. And then when it's done, it's done. And those little babies, they wipe their tears. Those little toddlers, those little ones that haven't been conditioned out of it, they wipe their tears. And just like your son does, ball mommy, ice cream mommy. And then they're back to play, because the energy moved out of their body like a wave. And our bodies are instrumentally designed to process these waves. What happened, because we've been so conditioned, it's not our parents' fault, they were conditioned. It's not their parents' fault, they were conditioned. It's not their, it goes back. And it's not that it's a problem. Let me just contextualize this. We've all decided to come into these realms. This is like, this is like you're getting your PhD here in Earth School, So I don't want to talk about this and make it as if it's a problem or if it's wrong. I think it's all beautifully architected for our ultimate evolution. Okay. But There is a pattern in our culture of people that have suppressed their authentic emotions for lifetimes so severely that they have no capacity left to be with other people's emotions. Therefore, as a culture, we have made it wrong, annoying, bad for our babies and our children to cry. Now, with newborns, a mother is biologically, the cry is actually designed to help to get her to attend to her baby, right? So it's not that we just let our babies cry, but there comes a point where the emotion is more than just communication. The body is actually processing energies and moving energies. We get conditioned out of that every time that we pick our children up and say, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, don't cry, don't cry. And we try to fix the situation as opposed to lovingly, tenderly tending to them. Tenderness is the tending to another who is in a process of moving those big waves. Now, there's a difference between moving big emotions and also becoming to identify with them, because the ego will seduce you into believing that, oh, well, if I'm truly honoring the divine feminine, that I'm allowed to be totally in my anger and totally in my, you know what I mean? And then it goes beyond just the raw primal energy of it.
Yeah.
And now we've begun to identify with it. So that's an entirely different thing that we want to be mindful of. But making space to feel your feelings is an incredible revolution. I want to say something here about tears because this is a really important piece for women. We have been, again, taught that our tears are something to apologize for, to be ashamed of, that we're taking up way too much space when we're crying. Nobody wants to hear it. We're weak if we're crying. And I really want to invite every single person that listens to these words to take back the rightness of their tears. Your tears have salt in them for a reason. They are purifying. You, as a woman, are genetically designed with a gift to bring the stagnancy and the pain of the world into the holy waters again. And through your tears, every time you cry, you are taking stuck, stagnant collective energy that is in a contraction, that is dead, really, because there's only two frequencies, right? There's detrimental frequency that holds everything back, that's death energy, and then there's life energy that pushes everything forward. We're so imbalanced here on Earth right now, and that there's so much detrimental frequency. And women, every time you are crying, you are taking that detrimental frequency and you are moving it into life-giving frequency. Water is life. Your tears are life. I get chills down my spine when I speak that. I often say your tears are a baptism for yourself and for humanity. Cry, cry, cry until you cannot cry anymore. And sometimes there are certain priestesses that are, they are connected to the divine work of crying the tears of the world. Oftentimes, you're not necessarily even crying your tears. It may be catalyzed by a personal experience, but you're really crying the tears of the collective wounded feminine.
Yeah.
Of the harm and the hurt of humanity's heart.
I get chills on my spine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So thank you for allowing me to sort of put a plug in for the rightness of our tears.
No, this was what was needed. And I would even like to add that, as I had to reteach my older one to feel his emotions fully, to be able to express himself, cry if he had to. Just a couple of days ago, he was tired in the night to do homework and he had this crying episode. And I sat there with him and he was like, I'm angry. I'm so angry. And I just sat there. I was like, okay. And I could sense my discomfort. I could sense my three-dimensional human and my ego saying that, hey, enough already. It was just homework. Go to bed. But I held that space. So we can do this too to ourselves. We can even reteach ourselves. I also want to add that the opposite of tears, or the opposite of some of these low vibration emotions, is also true for us, because we also do not allow us to feel the pleasure. to
Mhm.
feel the happiness.
Big time. To be radiant, to shine our light, right? We're
Right.
also afraid of being judged. And so we shrink and we apologize
Yeah.
for our abundance, for our expansion, for our blessings. Oh, let me not be too big because people won't like it, right?
Right.
That's an
Right.
absolute reversal code that we've
Yeah.
all sort of agreed to. Mhm.
Yeah. Or let me not do that because I like it, because I'll feel guilty because my family doesn't like it, or that person doesn't like it, or what my husband is gonna say, or my dad is gonna say, or my children are gonna say. We have so many ifs, and the guilt and the shame that we not only not allow us to feel the sadness and the anger and the pain and the shame and the guilt, but we also do not allow ourselves to feel the pleasure,
Yes,
the happiness. I think that's huge.
it
That's huge.
is. It
Mhm.
is because, this earth, it was always meant to be this Garden of Eden.
Mhm.
Everything that we need, the mother is constantly trying to shower us with her abundant blessings. And there is so much beauty. There is so much goodness. There is so much deliciousness and delight here. And right, we've been conditioned to sort of be worker bees that are
Right.
constantly, trying to prove ourselves and prove our worth, that oftentimes we forget to really, it's like we're here to experience the divine through our senses, through our body, through our smell, through our taste. So to slow down and get into that feminine paradigm helps you to open up to all of the pleasures abound.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Deepshika, I want to just mention one tool or one construct that people can practice with
Mm,
themselves and with their
lovely.
children. I often teach in the form of stories, so I'll just give a context here, just real quick. My daughter came home from school. She's in college now, but she came home when she was in 7th grade, and it was the first time that she was really hurt by a group of girls. And she came home and she was crying about what they said, and they made fun of her backpack. And we were sitting on her bed, and I remember listening to her. And when she stopped talking, I took a breath and I started to give her perspective. I was saying, well, your backpack is just, it's not who you are, and that like mommy kind of stuff
Right.
that we try to do to make them feel better, that whole
Yeah.
thing. And I actually noticed her body. She leaned back away from me a little bit. It was very subtle, but she leaned back away from me. And then I stopped and I recognized, ooh, there was just an energetic disconnection that happened. So I
Mm,
stopped and I said to her, sorry, I actually really want to say, you must be really hurting right now. And I
mm,
get that you're really sad about what happened. And I mirrored her and I validated her feelings and I made space to see her rather than to try to make her feel better.
yeah.
And again, that's when I was taught the power of this art of allowing. We all desperately seek to be seen and heard and accepted exactly as we are. And the moment that we are seen, heard, and accepted for how we are is the moment that the divine beauty, radiance, and intelligence in us can start to even expand even more.
Mm,
So, to validate your children and their feelings, to simply say, I hear you. You're sad. You're angry. You're allowed to be angry.
yeah.
And then to take that context and to do that, just like you said before, to do that to yourself
Mhm.
is of the utmost importance for accelerated evolution and your growth path.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I had chills down my spine when you said that. It is such a gift. It is such a gift for allowing ourselves to feel, but also to give it to others and to receive it from others. Most of the times we've been taught, and that's what we do to others, knowingly or unknowingly, is anytime someone would tell us something, we go into advice mode,
Right.
right? We tell them how to start fixing it. Maybe they have not been looking to fix it, but they start we just start giving them advice when the only thing they need is just for someone to stay there and hold that space and just witness them.
Exactly, my love. That's exactly right. Yes. Not right, but that's exactly what my intuition, what my wisdom, what my knowing, my deep, deep, deep
Right.
knowing in my
Mhm.
soul. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Hey, Deepshika here. I just wanted to take a quick break and thank you for tuning in. I love making this podcast for you, and I hope you love listening. If you do, the best way to show it is, yes, you guessed it, reviews. Reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts, help the show's visibility and get it to more people. So if you're enjoying the show, let us know. Thanks again. All right, let's get back to the conversation. All right, I'm going to change gears a little bit here, and I want to talk about the art of priestessing.
Mm.
I know that a lot of women are being initiated, their priestess codes are being activated. Some are aware, some are unaware. Tell us what does being a priestess mean for those who are listening and their ears are perked up, but they don't even know what that means.
Yeah. So for me, and I speak just on behalf of my own knowing again, a priestess is a conduit between the mystical realms and the mundane, between the higher self and the human self. She is a bridge. Her greatest art is the art of space holding. And oftentimes that comes with ceremony, ritual, rite of passage. And her role ultimately is to carve out safe and sacred spaces for people to be in communion and connection with the divine and the mystical within them. So she's not, different than the Catholic Church, and all due respect to religion and people's beliefs around religion. But the Catholic Church, sort of the model is you must go to the priest and through the priest in order to reach the divine, that the priest is sort of the gateway. In the feminine use of that word priestess, there is no gateway. But we all need spaces and places, portals, to come out of the third dimensional matrix where we can actually hear the whispers of the voice of the mother inside of our heart, where we can tend to the shadow pieces and aspects inside of ourselves that are coming up. And that is the art of the priestess, is to hold those very sacred spaces, temple spaces, sanctuary spaces, just covenant spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, she's a facilitator of helping people be in relationship, to be in communion, and to live in connection to the glory of the God within them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other piece of it for those of us is that, we're here to serve. Many people know that. And I'm just going to go off on a tangent for 1 second. I'm going to come back because this is an important piece. I've worked with thousands of women, and this is something that really tangles people up. So many people, they will get the impulse. The codes will start to come online, and suddenly they know this corporate job that I'm working, it's no longer me, and something is starting to pulse and percolate inside of them. And it's the appetite, it's the impulse to serve, to do higher work, to help in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, when they start to feel that impulse, because it is an energy, it's a popping of light inside of you, it's a raising of consciousness, right? The way that they address that energy beginning to reveal itself is through the masculine model. What am I to do with this?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why so much of the coaching industry has got billions of dollars being funneled into it, because people are making this investment into help me figure out my business and my platform because I know that I'm meant to serve. But that actually is not, you can never figure out. I can't tell you how many people, they pay a coach, help me figure out what my work is. Help me figure out how to make this sustainable. When you say the words figuring out, that has an energy, and it's mental energy, it's head energy. A purpose can never be figured out.
Love it. Mm-hmm.
It must come from the realms of the soul. And if it comes from the realms of the soul, then it is revealed to you and through you. And
Mm-hmm.
so back to the priestess creates space. Ooh, I get so many chills. The priestess creates space, not of the mental figuring out, but of the alignment and the attunement and of the raising of your frequential patterns, of your frequency and your vibrational energy, so that your purpose, your mission, your clarity, your service, your holy work can be revealed to you.
Mm. Oh, I just love this. I feel like I'm being activated right now. So much is that's the word. I feel like it is so much is being activated with your words right now. I absolutely love it. And I want to add here that it's going to be revealed not on your timeline,
Ah, yes.
right? Not on the timeline that you have in mind. It's going to be revealed in its own time,
Yeah, when
not a
you're ripe.
moment soon.
That's exactly right. When you're ripe and when you're ready. And part of truly stepping into the up leveling is learning the art of surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're truly going to be an emissary for the divine feminine, an emissary for the divine mother, well, she's not going to let you work for her unless you truly understand her energy. And if you
Right.
don't surrender and you don't even allow yourself to feel, all of those shadow pieces, I feel like a failure, I feel like a loser, I feel broke, I feel unworthy. You have to be able to go through that first before you become the embodiment of what you're meant to hold and serve for other women. And so the divine mother, yeah, she sometimes needs to put you through the ringer in
Yeah.
order to get you, but it's not bad. It's just part of the cycle, the life, death, rebirth cycle. You need to die to your old self in order to be reborn.
Yeah. Yeah. And, people resist it. I've had many women talk on the podcast. We've recorded a few episodes with women who've gone through the same experience. And one thing common that I hear from everybody, that's been my experience, I know that's been your experience, maybe too, that 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 life death, especially the death, it's the most challenging, most painful, but the most incredible and delightful experience of their life. Like we can't even put it in words that it's both.
Yeah.
And which also speaks about the non-duality of the work, right? It's neither here nor there. It's never, black and white. It's never day and night. It's everything. It's like both states of peace and chaos and delight and happiness and anger. Everything can exist at the same time.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And to spread your arms and your wings out to all of it, as if it all has a purpose in your evolution. I work with the goddess Isis. I know that you do as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she came to me one day in meditation, and she was just with all of her golden energy, and she showed me her name in golden letters, Isis, and she pulled it apart. Is.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I knew that what she was saying is, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Everything and how you view it is actually a veil over your consciousness. You have been taught to think of certain things as painful. The only thing that's painful, maybe if you stick your hand in a fire, the physically sensational pain. But any emotional pain comes from how we think things should be and they are not.
Mm-hmm.
So Christ consciousness, that divine cosmic consciousness, and by the way, when I say Christ, I don't mean to trigger anybody with that word. I know that's a loaded word for some people.
Right.
The context I'm using it means crystal, crystalline, the luminosity, the illumined expression of our DNA, that consciousness, right? That clarion consciousness of the light. When we are in that consciousness, everything is neutral.
Mm.
It is what it is, and it is all happening for us.
Mm-hmm.
Now that might be a big jump for some people,
Definitely. Yeah. I can even like sitting here, I'm like, okay, that's gonna people will be like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean it's all happening for me?
Yeah, right. But I love to plant these seeds of light because, you
Right.
never know. In the garden of our heart, they will flourish at a certain point. But
Absolutely.
this is the templates that I'm asked to hold now of
Yeah.
just what if it's actually all in perfection the
Mm-hmm.
way that it is. And when I let myself feel that, tune into that, there is a silent, ecstatic expansion that I can tune into that tells me that that is divine truth.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
mind is going to fight back like heck about that. It's going to kick, it's
Absolutely.
going to scream, it's going to say, this woman is crazy. Look at our world. Are you kidding? But
Yeah.
here's what's happening in our world, if I may. All of this divisiveness, all of this division. It's actually, I want you to think about like a scrub, like two scrub brushes that go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, or even our hands back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's because it's a heat that needs to be created.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you put a rocket ship up into space, the from ground to the first bunch of feet up is the hardest point. Once it gets past that, it's whew, it goes all the way into space, all those many, many, many miles so easily.
Right.
But getting it off the ground is what is the hardest. So this propulsion of Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 back and forth, back and forth. If it's all imperfection, this is what I was shown by the masters. It's actually creating the friction and the propulsion to, I'm getting chills, my love, to lift us up into that state of the fifth dimension.
Mm. Beautiful.
So, yeah. Yeah. And again, it's not that we leave it alone and don't do anything about it,
Mm-hmm.
but we get in the back of our heart and we open our hearts to it. And remember, opening your heart with the presence of love, mercy, and compassion is actually what calls it into divine order.
Mm-hmm.
So we are doing the work of the priestess, even just from our living room.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and I'll say this, just as a closing piece to this thought, which is to say back to the idea of living your purpose and wanting so desperately to feel useful, to feel like you're on purpose. You do not need a platform for that. You could sit on your cushion, on your yoga mat or on your back bedboard, and you could be breathing and practicing this open-heartedness and this undefendedness. And what's moving through you and what's moving through your body temple and your body instrument and your body transmitting system is the exact medicine, the mother's love that the earth is so desperate for. So you are contributing in ways that are above and beyond any talk, any book, any TED, talk, anything that you could possibly do. Just allowing Divine Mother to flood through your heart and into these dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
So make no mistake, we can be on purpose, even if we're not out there being visible
Right.
quite yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, when we think of purpose in a way of, are we doing the purpose because it values? Is there any value attached to it? Are we doing it on a platform? Are we doing it so that we get money out of it? Then the purpose loses its meaning a little bit. Not that all of that is bad, but you can go and live your purpose without going on a TED talk,
Mhm.
without having a big platform. You can still do it, like you said, from a couch in your living room.
Exactly. Exactly. Just to pull the plug from all the attachment and the need that you overlay your purpose with and just let it be pure. It actually is what opens you up for incredible abundance, incredible ease, incredible grace. I do live as a priestess at this point, and I have a very, very abundant business. And I don't do a whole lot of work. I mean, I
Right.
do a lot of work, but it's more like service work as opposed to marketing and this and that. Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It all just comes in a way that is easeful and
Mm-hmm.
graceful and deeply supported by the divine, because I don't really have much of an attachment around it at this point. I went through those death portals. I've walked through many, many, many initiations,
Right.
believe you me. But that's what I would say about that for people that are really wanting to live on purpose. The irony is, like, pull back a little bit and just let yourself be for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Be pristine, be clean in just wanting to serve with nothing in return. And that's actually the codes that open you up to truly living that purpose in a visible, manifested, tangible way.
Speaks to my soul. Well, this has been so great. So much wisdom here. I know that the women can totally feel it in their soul. One last question. And I ask this to all my guests, that I believe, and I know that you do too, that our journeys are always evolving. We are always evolving. It's not about the arrival. It's not about the it. It's about that constant expansion and contraction. Would you mind sharing with us, what journey are you on right now? And what's one either gift or challenge or lesson that you are experiencing from it?
The journey that I am on now is learning, like truly trusting my mightiness, truly trusting and allowing myself to be as radiantly powerful as I know that I am, and standing tall in that without shrinking. That is the journey that I am currently on, is really building the musculature of my mightiness in the world. And, they say that the only difference between Jesus or Mary Magdalene, for example, and us as humans is that Mary Magdalene and Jesus had a knowing. They were in the vibration of certainty. They were in the full vibration of knowing that they were divine. Not a shred of doubt around it, not a shred of fear. And that's the journey that I am currently expanding into. Moving past all of my doubt, moving past any, those tethers of fear, the tethers of how dare you think you're this powerful, and really stepping into a musculature of fortitude, a mightiness, and a knowing that I am God and God is me. That's a famous line in the Bible from Yeshua. I and the Father are one, right? I am God. I am the divine are one. That's the journey that I'm on right now. And the piece that I would say that I'm always practicing, whether it be once a day or sometimes 700 times a day, I allow myself to be exactly as I am in this moment. That is my ever living, constant prayer. Because I know that as I allow myself to be fully human, that is exactly what unfolds the beauty and the brilliance of my divinity.
Oh, I know from my own experience that prayer there's an energetic activation to that prayer. Once you say it, it starts to move inside of you. The more you allow, the more you surrender, the more you start moving. It's like a dance that you do then with the divine. You're moving now, but it's almost like, you're being carried through those portals. You're being carried on the journey home to self. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for this beautiful, delightful, full of wisdom conversation. I love you so much.
Welcome. I love you. I love you. I love you. I see you. I celebrate you. I bow to you, my beautiful priestess sister. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And likewise, I bow to you. Where can people find you if they wanted to know more about your work?
I am on social media. I'm on Facebook under my name, Marin Bach-Antonson. I'm on Instagram at Marin Priestess Rising. And my website is priestessrising.com.
Beautiful. So go check it out. There's some beautiful tools too there on it. I think there's an audio that I listened to many, many times when I started working with you. Can you tell us what it is?
Sure. It's an audio bundle, and it's 7 ways to connect with your inner priestess. So it is a particular audio that will prime you for activating your priestess codes for sure.
It sure is. It sure is. Go check it out. We'll also link it in the show notes. Thank you again for joining me here.
You're welcome, my dear.
Thanks for listening to Journey Home to Self.
If you enjoy the show, please subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. And of course, your 5-star reviews are always appreciated. Thanks again, and see you next week.